seconds and counting.
Hey, what's good, yo? Welcome back to another video. It's Anish. I'm joined with Drew and E, and today we're going to be talking about Brandin Cook's trade possibilities. And in this video, we're mainly going to be talking about the Rams because it seems like that's the most likely destination for Brandin Cooks. He's been liking some tweets about him being traded to the Rams, and we've had some insiders report that the Rams are the most likely destination. And so let's first talk about why Brandin Cooks should be traded from the Texans because for the longest time it seemed to make a lot of sense for him to stay on the Texans. He's a locker room leader. He's a seasoned veteran. He's one of the most consistent players in the NFL. So for us to trade such a consistent guy of this team, and he was a huge part of our offense last year, why would the Texans even consider to trade him? And I think the simplest answer is if you watched him this season, it's been pretty clear that he isn't the number one guy anymore. It's Nico Collins, and by a wide margin. And even though the stats might not show it with Nico, sometimes doesn't get like the most yards. Nico Collins, I think, is now like a better receiver on this team than Brandin Cooks. I mean, Brandin Cooks, he's had his moments last year, but this season, he hasn't really been the same Brandin Cooks. Separation wise, he hasn't like fallen off, and he still gets a huge chunk of the targets for this team. It's not like Davis Mills isn't looking at him anymore. It's just he hasn't been able to haul it in, and he's had some crucial drops. He had a drop that could have been a touchdown, a drop that could have moved the chains, and things that could have really changed the whole outlook of the game for us. And so, Brandin Cooks, as good as he is, I think it might be best to move on from him, get some draft capital as a rebuilding team because he is approaching his 30s. And he's also been listed as a healthy scratch. He's was listed as questionable, but he has been fully participating in practice. So it just seems like Brandin Cooks is no longer going to be part of this team, and wish him best of luck. But Drew and E, what do you think is going to be a reasonable trade package for Brandin Cooks?
A third and a fifth or third and a sixth, just like the Kadarius Toney package. Just because of that trade, the whole like trade market for receivers, just switched up for me. So I think something along those lines would be pretty impressive. His contract's only 2 years.
Something that stands out to me is that what you said about the trade market. When a trade happens, the trade market is gonna fluctuate. But Kadarius Toney and Brandon Cooks it's an interesting, kind of match there. Kadarius Toney is a very, very young player. Yeah, he's had some injuries in the past, don't get me wrong. But the potential is there. Um, and while Brandon Cooks is a wide receiver who's had 8,000 total yards, multiple consecutive seasons of having a thousand yards in that season. So it's just kind of like, how do you dictate the value there? But I think if you're the Texans, you're trying to get a little bit more than they got for Kadarius Toney. I don't think Nick Casares is a very good negotiator, so I would be interested to see what he can do there. And it does seem like Brandon Cooks is probably going to be traded. We just saw Kamu Grugier who get asked to be released, and we know he's really close with Jack Easterby, and someone who's really close to Jack Easterby is also Brandon Cooks. Also seen Brandon Cooks liking tweets about being traded. That's kind of sus. I don't know why he's doing that unless he wants to be traded or he expects to be traded or something like that. Something is going on behind the scenes that hasn't totally been revealed. But so yeah, watch out for the Packers to be super desperate for Brandon Cooks. And another team I was really interested in was the Los Angeles Rams, the team that traded Brandon Cooks to the Texans for a second round pick. That would be crazy to see him back there. And this is gonna be interesting. I don't know what they're willing to offer. Obviously, they have Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, they have Van Jefferson coming back.
I don't think they're as desperate as the Rams just because, they're still the champions. Their offense is still good. Cooper Kupp is on pace to set another historic season. So they're not really desperate, but they also know that adding someone like Brandon Cooks to that receiver group would make them instant contenders again. It's like if the Phoenix Suns were to trade for Eric Gordon last season, where that would have made them better. So it's pretty much the same scenario. It's just in the NFL where they kind of should go for Brandon Cooks to be, that second or even third guy at nights, just so that makes them a better team and a better offense. I think, they probably give up a third, maybe like a third and a sixth. I doubt we'd see that much, but I think one third is probably what they'll be willing to give up.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. And the only reason I can see the Rams really wanting to trade for someone of a Brandon Cooks caliber is what the 49ers just did in getting Christian McCaffrey. That really put the 49ers over the edge of kind of saying, wow, this team is probably going to win the NFC West now. It looks like the Rams are kind of scrambling to make upgrades, looking to trade Cam Akers. They're trying to make some moves here. The Rams has really not played up to their expectations.
And yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know what you think. I guess some other teams the Texans could trade Brandon Cooks to would be the Green Bay Packers, especially since Rodgers needs that wide receiver help and them having a losing record, which is pretty astounding. Let us know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section below. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank you all for watching. Peace.